Boker Tov, today's daf is Daf Yud Dalid in Nizir. Shana Tova to everybody. Today's Tu B'Shvat. So yesterday we got down about halfway, a little bit more than halfway down the page in Daf Yud Dalid Amar Aleph, right where the word Pashut at the beginning of the line there. Pashut Minayu Kamaisa. We'll decide the first case that was questioned over here. What's that first case? Hareni Nizir. A man says, I want to be a Nizir after 20 days. 20 days from now, I want to be a Nizir. And I want to be a Nizir now for 100 days. Well, the 100 days will not complete, obviously, before the 20-day mark. So what happens? Is the whole thing suspended? Or do we say that he starts the 100 days now, interrupts it, and then picks it up later on? So he tells you, Modim Estrim, you count 20, the first 20 out of the 100. Then you count 30. After 30, you can shave and bring the karbanos. Obviously, the king, as we'll see, bringing the karbanos is really what ends the nazirs. And then you complete the 80 to finish the first one, in order to complete the first one. As we saw yesterday in the Mishnah, let's say a person just says, Hareni Nazir, and then he's a Nazir. He said, I want to be a Nazir. I want to be a Nazir when if I have a son, and then the son is born in middle of his 30 days. It was only a 30-day Nazirus that he took upon himself. And then his son was born in middle. So he completes his 30, does the karbonos, and then he does the ones for the son. But if he said the son first, I want to be a Nazir if I have a son. Then he said, I want to be a Nazir now. Son wasn't born yet. So when he started his Nazirus for himself, his son wasn't born, but he had mentioned his son first if he has a son. So then when the son is born in the middle of the 30 days, he interrupts it, he interrupts it because the son comes first, does those 30 days, but he doesn't bring karbanos yet for the first period because it was in the middle of the first of his 30 days that he did for himself. And then he just brings karbanos, and then at the end of the Nazirus, he has to complete the whole Nazirus after the 30 days for his son. He finishes whatever was left over from his own, and he does that at the end. Then he brings 2 sets of karbanos, one for each one, but he only shaves at the end because had he shaved after the interrupted one. In other words, he had started his own. What did he say? He said, I want to be a Nazir if I have a son. And he started, and then he said, I want to be a Nazir now. He started, let's say, his own, and he did 10 days. Then the son was born. So he did 30 days for the son, and then he finished his 20 days afterwards. But he can't shave after the son's over, because he only has 20 days left. You need 30 days. So then we said, he does, the Pashup Shad is that he does the shaves only after the full 60 days, then he has to bring 2 sets of karbanos. In this case, where he said, I want to be a Nazir after 20 days, and I want to be a Nazir for 100 days now, he starts the 20. That was the question. Is the whole thing suspended or not? He counts the first 20, then he does the 30, but after the 30, he could shave because there's still 80 days left on the other one, and then he finishes the 80, completing the first one that he started the 100 days. To complete the first one. So again, he says, I want to be a Nazir after 20 days. That's one Nazirus. And he says, I want to be a Nazir now for 100 days. So he does the first 20 days out of the 100 now. And then the other one starts after 20 days, because that was how he started off by saying, I want to be a Nazir after 20 days. Then he does that one, finishes it, does karbanos, shaves everything. Then he does the last 80 from the first Nazirus. What happens if in the middle of this, he said, I want to be a Nazir after going back to our Mishnah? In this case, it was just 20 days, not 100 days. There wasn't talking about a son. Let's say in the case where his son was born in the middle of his, and he can't do the 30 days for the son in middle. Again, not in the case where if he said first, I want to be a Nazir, and then I want to be a Nazir if I have a baby, then the son, even if the son is born in the middle of his first 30 days, you wait because he wants to be his Nazirus first. So he does his Nazirus, finishes it, completes everything, karbanos, shaving, and then he does one for the son. But if he said the one for the son first, I want to be a Nazir if I have a son, and then I want to be a Nazir. Okay, the son's not born yet, so you start your Nazirus. Then the son's born in the middle of the 30 days. That interrupts it, and then he completes his later on. Okay, let's say in the middle of the one for the son, he became Tameh. What's the rule if you become Tameh while you're a Nazir? You have to count the 7 days of Tahara to get purified. We're talking about Tameh Mace. You have to be sprinkled on the 3rd and 7th day, etc. The first days are all gone, are all knocked off. They are null. Then you got to start all over again, right? What happens if he became Tameh in the middle of the Nazirus of his son? which was interrupting his other Naziris, right? Because the sun reversed. Then maybe no. Rabbi Yochanan says soser. It knocks off everything. What does Rabbi Yochanan says? Afos and Yom says Rashi Shemona Kfar al Shalo. Again, let's say he said, I want to be a Nazir if I have a son, and I want to be a Nazir now. Okay, you want to be a Nazir now, so you're a Nazir now. After 10 days, your son's born. So now you become a Nazir. You start the one for the son because that interrupted, that takes precedence. Okay, while you're a Nazir for your son, you became Tameh. Okay, you got to start that one all over again. Does it knock off the Naziris that you did 10 days of yours too? That's a machlokes. Rabbi Yochanan says soser, Shlakish ain't a soser. Rabbi Yochanan says soser. It's one long Naziris, right? It's one long Naziris because, as we said, you only bring the kabbalas at the end because you need the full 60 days. So it's like one long Naziris. So Rabbi Yochanan says soser. Afos niyam shekvar al shalo dekivant afilu monosh es shalo. Ein avigelech mentaymi. He doesn't check. Can see it's a richter dummy. The soser es a kol. Even if he's counting his own, he can't shave yet until he finishes the whole 60 days. So it's like one long thing, so it knocks it all off. Rish Lakish says no. Ain't a soser as shalo, it only knocks off the one that he's in the middle of. Rish Lakish, in other words, the first 10 days. Remember what he said? He said, I'm going to be a Nazir for my son if I have a baby. Then and baby wasn't born yet. So he said, I want to be a Nazir now also. He did 10 days of his. Then the baby is born. So he starts counting one for the baby, right? For his son. In the middle of the one for his son, he became Tameh. So it knocks off shortly the one for the son. Does it knock off the first 10 days that he did? So Rabbi Yochanan says it does because it's one long thing. Rish Lakish says no. Amar ein soser. Naziris kidei l'chud u'debrei l'chud. His own Naziris is one thing. There's one for his son, something else. In other words, his own Naziris that he did 10 days of, that's suspended. That's not taking place right now. That's suspended. We'll pick it up later on. We interrupt this program and we'll pick it up later on. From where we left off. But the one for the son obviously is knocked off, is a no. Then you got to start all over again. But the one for himself, this is the machlokes of Yochanan and Rish Lakish. Let's say another case. Yeah.
How can that work then? Because if the first Naziros is 30 days and the one for the son is 30 days.
That's right.
If he gets tamei during the one for his son,
yeah,
he also has to shave. He won't have time to.
That's right, but he has
to. So what? Why?
He has to do.
Rabbi Yochanan Shita would be
okay. He has to do the son.
Much better.
He has to do the son. The one for the son is knocked off, and he has to start the one for the son all over again.
And the first one is still
the first one. It still has 10 days on credit, right? According to Rav Yochanan, no, the whole thing is knocked off. According to Rish Lakish, no, those 10 days are still on credit. Now that the one for the son has been interrupted by the tumah, so start the one for the son over again. That, like, those days didn't count at all. When you finish the one for the son, what have you got? So you got the son, then you got to pick up the last 20 days from the first one. That's one machlokas. Now, and on the days, no, doesn't shave. He shaves after the tumah is over, after the 7 days, and he purifies himself, he has to shave then and start all over again one for the son. But now when the son is finished, when he finishes the one for the son, he shouldn't shave now because he still has 20 days to complete for this, and 20 days isn't enough to shave on. You need to shave on 30 days. So as we said in the Mishnah, he'll shave at the end of the whole 60 days and bring 2 sets of korbanos then. 2 sets of korbanos tahara. Anamid Beis now. Nitma b'meitz araso. So the Pashut shot, the way Rashi learns in his first shot, is that he was a Nazir, and a Nazir who became a Tzorah in middle. You think he got problems if you're a Nazir? He became a Tzorah in middle. Now, if he becomes a Tzorah in middle, his Naziris is suspended until he finishes the purification process for a Mitzorah. However, a Mitzorah, as opposed to a Nazir who became Tamei Meis, who went to a funeral, his days are knocked off. He's totally annulled. He's got to start all over again. If he's a Mitzorah, it's not knocked off. It's just suspended. You stop in middle. So let's say, though, he became Tamei while he was a Mitzorah. He's a Nazir who became a Mitzorah, and then somebody died on him while he was in a room. Somebody died on him. He became Tamei Meis. What do you say there? Nit Meitz Araso. So Rav Yochanan Soser. Rashi learns Haya Nazir b'netztarav Meitz Araso Nitma Meis. Rav Yochanan says a Soser as a Kodman. The Hakati Naziris. In other words, Saras itself doesn't knock off the days, right? It just suspends it. You got to stop in middle. But if it became tummy mace while he was in mitzvah, Rabbi Yochanan says it still knocks it all off. Rish Lakish ain't associated. Same machlokas as we had on Aleph in a different case with the sons Naziris conflicting with his. Rabbi Yochanan Amar Soser Dabazirus Kai. He's still in the middle of Naziris. He's still in the middle of Naziris. In other words, the fact that he's a Mitzorah, yes, while he's a Mitzorah, his Naziris is suspended. But if he became Tameh while he was a Mitzorah, he's still in the middle. He's in the middle of a suspended sentence, right? In the middle of a suspended sentence, you also can't violate the parole rules, even though he's a Mitzorah and his Naziris is suspended, but he's still a Mitzorah. He's still in Nazir. His Naziris is suspended, but he's still a Nazir. So if he became Tameh while Tameh Mace, in other words, he was a Mitzorah, Tzorah has to get purification. Tameh Mace also has to get purification. They're two separate processes. So if he became Tameh while he was a Mitzorah, Rabbi Yochanan says he's still a Nazir, so it knocks off the whole Naziris. Those are two separate conditions. One is Naziris, one is Saras. While he's a Mitzorah, his whole Naziris is suspended. You don't look at Naziris at all. So if he became Tameh Mes, okay, he has to get purified from Tameh Mes, but it doesn't knock off the whole Naziris. They say machlokas here. Rashi brings down other ways to learn this, but that's the Pashup Pshat. Rashi says, Tosa says, Amar Nazir Yom Behischal Limnos Naziris. Okay, so Tasa and Rashi doesn't really argue with the first chat in Rashi. In any case, why do we have these two machloks in both cases? Rabbi Yochanan says that it knocks off the Naziris, right? If he became Tameh in the middle of the Naziris of his son, which was in the middle of his Naziris, does it knock? Rabbi Yochanan says knocks off both. Rish Lakish says it doesn't. Here also, if he became Tameh while he was a Nazir who was a Mitzorah, does it knock off the Naziris days or not? Rabbi Yochanan says it does. Rish Lakish says it doesn't. Why do we need both machlokas? In both cases, Rabbi Yochanan says it knocks it off, and Rish Lakish says it doesn't. If you tell me the first case with the two Naziris is one of his son. Rabbi Yochanan says Shem Nazir Sachasi. It's one long Naziris. In other words, he was a Nazir for himself. Then his son's Naziris interrupted his. And then he picked it up later on. So he said if he became Tameh while he was a Nazir for his son, knocks off everything because it's one big Naziris. At the end, he only shaves after 60 days, as we saw in the Mishnah. Aval Bahab, in the case of Tzras, maybe he's Moshe, the Nazir, but these are two separate conditions, Naziris and Naziris. In the first case, he's just a Nazir. In both cases, one for himself, one for his son, but it's all Naziris. And you see, you only shave at the end of the 60 days, right? So it's one long Naziris. But over here, where he's a Nazir in one condition, and he's a Mitzorah in another condition. So you say if he became Tameh Mace while he's a Mitzorah, it doesn't knock off the Naziris because those are two different conditions. So I might think he'd be motive to Rish Lakish, Kamashmon that he's not. Be it Merbahan, if you tell me the second case, the other Rish Lakish said what? Those are two separate conditions. And if he became Tameh Mace while he's a Mitzorah, it doesn't knock off the Naziris because those are two separate things, Naziris and Saras. But in the first case, where he's a Nazir for himself and a Nazir for his son, they're both Naziris. I might think he's motive. Therefore, I tell me both cases. Period. Okay. Now we come to a complicated case. Those weren't complicated. Nitma biyom gidul seir. He became tamei on the day that his hair grew long. What does that mean? So Rashi has two pshatim. Tosfos has another pshat. Rashi says nitma biyom gidul seir. First pshat is very simple. Rashi says kagon shekibol of Naziris man. He was set in Naziris for 100 days. After he counted 7 days, he became Mitzorah. As I said before, Saras suspends the Naziris without annulling it. Okay. After he became Tameh from Saras, Gilach, Tiglach is Saras. He finishes Saras process. And afterwards, Gilach, he shaved, Tiglach is Saras. He still got 30 days left. Remember, he said, I'm going to be Nazir for 100 days. After 30 days, after 7 days, he became Mitzorah. Fine, that interrupts it. Finish the whole thing with Saras. Then he has 30 days left. This will Gidul Seir, that he needs 30 days of Gidul Seir because he has to shave after the Saras. He has to need 30 more days. He needs a minimum of 30 days to before he could shave for his Naziris. V'nitma b'yom Gidul Seir. Hainu b'yom mea shebo shilem Gidul Seir shalo. He became Tameh on the 30th day, meaning really the 100th day. Became Tameh day. Divriyakol soser shloshim. Everybody, this is how Rashi learns in this first chapter. Everybody agrees that it knocks off these last 30 days. Shachar Saras. So Rashi in his first pshat says this is the machlokas of Yochanan and between Rav and Shmuel over here. Again, look at the Gemara. Nitma b'yom gidul seir. Rav Omer Ein Soser. Rav says it doesn't knock off the first 70 days. Afilu Rabbi Yochanan, even Rabbi Yochanan seems to say these last two cases over here that Omer Soser, things knock it off. Hani Mili Heichad Koy Ben Naziris. Heichad Koy says that's where he's in the Naziris. Gidol Seir Mishnah Nazirisu, but the Gidol Seir is really just completing his Naziris. And what do you mean by so? According to this Prat Rashi, Gidol Seir means he needs these last 30 days after the tzara, after he cut his hair in the middle, legitimately for the tzaras, he needs 30 days to finish it. Well, that's called Gidol Seir, meaning it's not stam 100 days. Rashi Tosas learns Pirush, the second Tosas. He was a nazir for 30 days, and after 20 days from Naziris, he was forced. Somebody shaved off his head by force. Right? So what does that mean? He didn't become tummy, he didn't do anything wrong, but he was forced. Somebody cut off his hair, cut off all his hair after 20 days. They forced him. He can't shave after 30. He didn't do any sin because he didn't do anything wrong himself, but his hair has been shorn off. So he can't shave on the 30th day because he's only got 10 days of growth. And he's got to wait. He needs 30 days of growth. And he started his chil alamed. Let's say after he finished 10 more days, same as zero. So he already counted 20 at the beginning. Comes after 20 days. In other words, Tosfos learns a very simple case. He said, I'm going to be a Nazir. After 20 days, somebody shored off, they gave him a shave. They cut off all his hair against his will. Now he has to do 30 more days to let the hair grow. But after 10 days of these last 30, he really finished his 30 days, right? He did 20 before he was forcibly shorn. Is that the correct language? And then 10 days now. And then the last 20 days of this, the last 20 days before he shaves, that's really just to complete 30 days. That's called the days of Gidol Seir. He's just doing it to finish the hair. He really he's done his job. He's done his obligation, but he can't shave yet. He calls that's what Tosfos calls the Gidol Seir. Rashi brings down another shot, a second shot in Rashi that in a regular case where he was a Nazir and he counted 20 days and became Tameh. Come tell me, what do? You got to start all over again. When he starts all over again, listen to this, starts all over again. After 10 days, he's really done 30 clean days, except he had to start all over again. Now the last 20 days, that's also called Yomei Gidol Seir. So we say, oh, you got to start all over again, right? But if he became Tameh now in the makeup time, in the makeup Naziris, he became Tameh after doing 10 days. He did 20 days originally, but those days are annulled. Now he's got to do 30 more days. The first 10 days of those 30 more days, really he's done now 30 good days legitimately, right? He's done 20 originally and 10 now. The last 20 are makeup days, makeup for the hair. So that's how Rashi learns in the second shot. That's what we're talking about over here. If he became Tameh now, is that so, sir? Again, now look in the Gemara. Gidol Seir. According to Rashi, first shot, it was the 100th day after Ritzaras in the middle. According to the second shot in Rashi, it's literally a very simple case. If when you have to make up the Naziris because you became Tameh in the middle, but now when you make up time, you've already completed really 30 good days, 20 days originally and 10 days now. Now you're just waiting you need 30 days of growth. See that these last 20 days are called Gidol Seir, days of letting the hair grow. So Gidol Seir, if you come down, Rav says that doesn't knock it off. So according to this, it doesn't go constantly like you got to start. You came Tameh, you got to start all over again. It's like nothing happened. No, you do count the first 20 days. They're there, and now you have another 10 days clean, and then you became Tameh. Doesn't knock it all off according to the second shot in Rashi. According to Tosfos, it's a very simple case where he was forcibly shorn off. He didn't become Tameh in the middle. We're not talking about becoming Tameh. There was no tum involved at all. He lost his hair. His hair fell off. God forbid, chemo or something happened. He did something against his will. All his hair was gone. Now he has to grow it back. So if it became Tameh in that period, after he did do 30 legitimate days of growing his hair, but he doesn't have 30 days of growth because his hair was shorn off in the middle. That's the Shiloh here. Rav says, ain't a soser. And I feel Rabbi Yochanan, even Rabbi Yochanan said before, it's always soser. Hani mili, become Naziris. that's when he's in the middle of a regular Naziris. Here, Gidul Seir Meshlim Nazirasu. But over here, this Gidul Seir that we're talking about, whoever you learn, is simply completing the days. His time is really over. The time he started as Naziris is way past 30 days. He's just completing it because he's got to finish his hair. His hair's needs time to grow, and therefore, even Rav says, even Rabbi Yochanan would say that this doesn't knock it off. Doesn't knock off the days if he became Tamei now. There he's talking about two different Naziris, like the son and the father, right? He had two separate Nazirises. But this is all one long Naziris, and therefore it does knock it off according to Reish Lakish. Rambam Paskins like Rav in this case, but as I said, there's three ways to learn the case. At least three. At least three. The Rambam may learn the case even slightly differently. Rav Chisda. Everybody's moda. She'im kiddush seir bedam ein lo takana. The first understanding of this means this as follows. When you finish your Naziris, you did your 30 days or your 100, whatever the time was, what completes it? What means it's over now? Okay, it's over, you're free to drink wine, get a haircut, whatever you do. What completes it? So the main thing is the karbanos, as we'll see. You got to bring your karbanos. If you haven't brought your karbanos, you're still in Nazir. It's like a person who's tamei hasn't gone to the mikveh yet. You're still tamei. A nida. I just give a smart example. Woman's a nida. She's tamei for 7 days or 5 plus 4, 7, whatever it is. She hasn't gone to the mikveh yet. She's still tamei. She's still nida. It's not just the days completed. You got to do some process. Okay. In her case, it's a mikveh. Here, it's karbanos. So if you haven't brought your karbanos yet, so that's what happens. This. What happens? She'im kiddush seir bedam. Meaning, this is what happened. He brought a carbon already, right? He brought a carbon. And he became tamei now. So what happens? And he hasn't shaved his hair yet. So he says, you know what? There's no way for him to cut his hair properly at all, and he can't finish it. The first shot in this is that the Rashi says in the wide lines, biyom lamanav tzach lavi kabarasa im kvar nizruk adam. Right? He already bought one of the karbanos and they sprinkled the dam. And now he became tummy, and he still hasn't shaved. Nothing he could do. Keep him the limits. He can't count another time. He can't do another time because he's not having another carbon. Yeah, sure, the carbon maybe. He can't bring two sets of karbanos, only one set. It doesn't count. The kfar nitma became tummy. Therefore, there's nothing he could do. In other words, he's always going to be a Nazir. There's no way to get out of his Naziris because he became Tamei before he shaved his hair off. That's what the push-up shot is over here. Oh, so you have to, but no, because he can only be a Nazir. He's only one Nazir, right? But he can't finish that Naziris. Like there's no way to get him. There's no way to complete that Naziris because he became Tamei before he shaved. That's the first shot here. That's what we're going to see. We're going to slug that up. So if Chis says Akaman Shem Kiddush Seir Bedam. It sounds like there's no way for him to complete his Naziris because he became Tamei now, and he can't bring the karbanos again because he already bought the karbanos. So how could he shave based on what? He's Tamei now, he can't shave. The Gemara says, I'll leave it on. Who are you going for? You'll leave it, Rabbi Lezer. Again, we're referring to things that we're going to see later on in Shas. That's where you have the Prophet Shas that you should learn all the Mishnahs first. If you look at Rabbi Lezer, says, keep it on with the glachas makeves. The question is, does shaving hold it up? What's really when does the Naziris end? You have to shave at the end. After 30 days, you got to shave, or 100 days, whatever you said, you got to shave, you got to bring your karbanos, right? That's what gets you out of it. Then you could drink wine and go to a funeral. Okay. So the question is the shaving indispensable or not? Rav Lezer says shaving is indispensable. So since you haven't shaved yet, you're still a Nazir. So Tov Melosi. So you're still in the middle. For this story, even though you brought your karbanos, so what? You became Tamei now. You became Tamei after you brought the carbon, you haven't shaved yet. But if you haven't shaved yet, you're still a Nazir. So if you became Tamei now, even though the 30 days is complete, you got to start all over again. So therefore, it's still not going to start all over again. And then when you start all over again, you first got to do the 7 days of Tumah, and then you got to do your 30 days and bring the karbanos again. Because shaving is ma'akev. In other words, just like you can't shave during the time that you're a Nazir, you must shave at the end of Naziris to complete the Naziris process. So according to Rav Lezer, what do you mean you haven't shaved yet? You can't shave. What do you mean you haven't shaved yet? You're still a Nazir. And if you became Tamei while you're Nazir, you got to start all over again. You got to be 8 days, 7 days of Tumah, and then purify yourself, and then do the 30 days again. Maybe it goes according to Rabban that we paskin. Shaving is not ma'akiv. So what's your problem? If it's not ma'akiv, so you didn't shave. Big deal. Your Naziris is over. Once you bite your kabbanas, you're okay. Once you bite your kabbanas, you come tamei the next day. That doesn't knock off the Naziris. Even if even that same day, it's not. It says la'olam aliv rabbanan going for rabbanan. Ma'ilot takana. Means this, you never have a chance to do the mitzvah of giluach, of shaving b'tahara. Meaning, what does that mean? You finish the 30 days, you finish your time of Naziris, whatever that was, 30 days or whatever you said. You finish your Naziris. Now you bought your carbon. Okay, now you became tamei. Well, your Naziris is really over. What about shaving? You have to shave. You're supposed to shave while you're tahar, but you can't because you're tamei now. So you have to shave while you're tahar. You can't. So I'm not talking. You can't shave b'tara. You have to shave b'tumah. That's all. The mitzvah giluch means this. Says Rashi about 10 lines from down page. He can't start all over again. So he changed. He just can't. It doesn't mean that he's always going to be a nazir. It means that he has no way to fulfill shaving b'tara because he became tamei now. And therefore, once he became tamei now, so he can't admit the giluch is not ma'akav, and now he's tamei, so he has to do 7 days of tumah and tara, and that's it. So he can't whatever shaving is going to be, he's not going to be shaving in a state of naziris b'tara. Amar b'yasur of Tanita.
The shaving comes before the korbanos or after the korbanos?
The shaving should be immediate. Should be after the korbanos. However, as we'll see, if he shaved before the korbanos, that's going to be a shock. Can he shave before or after the korbanos? But the main thing is that the korbanos knocks it off. Now we're going to see. We're going to be discussing this issue here. Rabbi Yosef B'Chanina says Nazir Shakali Yamav. He finishes 30 days. Lokal atum bein lokal teglachas. Let's say he shaved before he brought his korbanos. He's supposed to bring the korbanos and shave, right? Bring the korbanos and shave at the same time, basically, right after you bring the korbanos. And part of the hair he throws under the fire, under one of the korbanos of the shlomim. So let's say he finished his days, and he didn't bring the korbanos yet, and he became tamei l'mes. He became tamei. Went to it, and he on purpose. He said, "I finished my days. I'm going to go to the. To the funeral. There's a funeral, yeah, but I finished my time, so I'm going to go to the funeral." And he went on purpose to the funeral. He gets malchus for that because he went on. He knows he wasn't finished yet. He didn't bring the korbanos. So he says here, Rabbi Yosef B'Chanina says a nazir who finished his days and he didn't bring the korbanos yet, and he went to a funeral, he gets malchus for that. However, if he finished his days and he didn't bring the korbanos yet, but he shaved, you just asked that, right? Did he shave before? You bring your korbanos first, then you shave. Okay? But he shaved before he brought the korbanos, or he drank wine before he brought the korbanos, even though he finished the days, doesn't get malchus for those things. The Gemara says, why not? What 3 things may you not do while you're a nazir? Drink wine, shave, and go to the funeral. Now, your naziris isn't over yet, even though the days are over, you haven't brought your korbanos yet. And if you were over on any one of those, let's say b'mezid with Adam and Asra and all that, you should get malchus for all of them. So why does Rabbi Yochanan says no? Only if you're over. If you went to the funeral, that's bad. You get malchus for that. But if you shaved or you drank wine, you're not going to get malchus for that. Why not? Gemara says, "Maisha tomadolaki." Why? Says, "Kol yomei naziris," all the days of his naziris Lashem that he's holy to God. L'ravos yom shalachim los kiyom shalachimos, to include even days after he finishes 30 days, but he hasn't yet brought the korbanos for whatever reason. He's on the 31st day, the 32nd day. But it says, since Kol Yom Azir, like I said, like a Nida who hasn't gone to the mikveh yet, even though her time, she's fulfilled all her days and she's clean and all that, she hasn't gone to the mikveh. So the days she's still in Nida. The same thing over here. Kol Yom Azir includes all the days, even the days afterwards, the days that after he finished the 30 days, like days before. And that's why if you went to the funeral, you get malchus. If you shaved before you did kos, also should be chayiv. The Amar Rahman, because Hashem said, "Kol yemei neder nizro tarli of Russia." All the days that he's a nazir, a razor should not pass on his head. Not only that, when it comes to shaving, but drinking also. Anything made out of grapes, right? Wine. So why are you singling out? You only get malchus if you went to a funeral after your 30 days up before you brought the kabbalah. Same thing should be by shaving and by wine. So the Gemara first says at the top of Tesvav, no, Shiny Yochadam Rachman Hashem said, Betime Rosh Nizro, you were in Tame while, the head of your Nazir is, meaning while your hair is up there. Misha Nezro Tola Barosho is the Nazir's Tola because he hasn't shaved yet. And he what? And he became Tame. There's a special pasuk. Okay. As Rashi says, Shiny Yochadam, time am I, who located the Sibitime Rosh Nizro, Misha Nizro Tola Barosho, the Mashmash Tola Kosovas Atumid B'Misha Daim Onoskach, he hasn't shaved. Even after he's finished his days, but his hair is still up there, meaning he hasn't shaved, he hasn't finished. If he went to the funeral, he's tamei. So special pasuk there, but it doesn't really counteract the questioning because we still have the pasuk of call you may. Now the Gemara is going to disprove Rabbi Yossi. Meisvei Nazir shekol yamav, Nazir whose days are finished. He finished his 30 days or whatever amount he had made as a fierce. Also, like Alech, he cannot shave, but he can't drink wine. He can't do any of the 3 prohibitions until these barnas karbanas. Ve'im gilach, if he did shave, or Shasian who drank wine, or he became Talmud Mason, and he hasn't brought his karbanas yet, I'll raise it something to get some malchus for that. Tiyufta, it's a kasha on what? On Rabbi Yossi, Rav Chanina, because here we've disproved him, right? Alma, says Rashi, the Gami Yomei L'Rabos Yomim Shel Achim Los, but Tiyufta Rabbi Yossi, it's a kasha on Rabbi Yossi Rav Chanina. And what have we had here, Michael? We've had a Tiyufta and a Tiboy and a Tiyufta, right? We've had a Tiyufta and all of them. So back to Tiyufta, but the point is that's the key. So when you finish your time, you got to bring your kabbalas and then you shave. However, as we'll see, the machlokas Rebbeinu is shaving ma'akiv. If you haven't finished shaving yet, are you still a nazir, even though you brought your kabbanos and you're still a nazir? In which case, if you became tummy, you'd have to start all over again, and et cetera, or not. That's a machlokas Rebbeinu and Rebbeinu. We'll continue to see in the upcoming days. Have a good day, everybody. Shana Tova.